I thought I was being generous. I thought I was being loved. But every time I handed her money, I was buying my own heartbreak. She called it Thai culture. I call it the most expensive lie I ever believed. The sunset over Pattaya beach painted the sky orange and pink. I sat across from Warana at this little beachside restaurant, watching her laugh at something I'd said. Her laugh was light and musical. It made my chest feel warm. I wasn't going to share this one. It's too raw, too humiliating. But last week, I received an email from someone who's been following this channel for nearly 2 years. They wrote to me not to criticize, not to judge, but to say they'd been through something similar. They wanted me to know that hearing these stories made them feel less alone. That maybe, just maybe, they weren't the only fool out there. When I opened that message, I had to read it twice, then a third time. My throat tightened. I felt this strange cocktail of emotions wash over me, part validation, part devastation. Because here I was, thinking I was just documenting my failures for no one in particular, and suddenly someone's telling me it mattered, that it helped. I sat there for what felt like an hour, just staring at the words on the screen, feeling both exposed and oddly lighter, like maybe my pain has a purpose after all. Before I take you deeper into this, I want to ask something of you. If you've ever been where I was caught between hope and denial, giving more than you should because you wanted so badly to believe, leave a comment below. Hit that like button if this resonates. Subscribe if you're new here. And please, tell me where you're watching from. I need to know there are real people on the other side of this screen. And to those of you who keep returning, video after video, listening to an old man confess his mistakes, thank you, from the bottom of my heart. You've given me something I thought I'd never have again. A community. A place where I don't have to pretend I have it all figured out. Your presence here means more than you'll ever know. Let me take you back to where it all started. She reached across the table and touched my hand. Her fingers were small and soft against my weathered skin. You make me so happy, Gerald, she said in that broken English that somehow sounded perfect to my ears. I squeezed her hand back. I hadn't felt this alive in 3 years. Not since Barbara died. The waiter brought our food, and Warana smiled at him before turning that smile back to me. It was like being bathed in sunlight. You good man, she said, looking into my eyes with an intensity that made me believe every word. Best man I ever know. I felt my throat tighten. At 65, I never expected to feel this way again. Back in Auckland, my house sat empty. I'd eat dinner in front of the TV. My pension checks piled up in my account with nothing to spend them on. No one to share anything with. My daughter called once a month if I was lucky. But here, in this moment, with this beautiful woman holding my hand, I felt young. I felt needed. I felt like maybe I had something left to give. The ocean breeze carried the smell of grilled seafood and jasmine. Warana leaned closer. I take care of you, Gerald, she whispered. Always. I believed her. God help me. I believed every word. 3 months earlier, I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for an escape. Walking street in Pattaya was loud and bright and nothing like the quiet grief of my life back home. Neon signs flashed. Music pounded from every doorway. Girls called out from bars, trying to get tourists inside. I found a small place tucked away from the main chaos. Quieter. The kind of place where old men like me could sit and drink without feeling like we were on display. Warana was behind the bar that night. When she smiled at me, something cracked open inside my chest. Something I thought had sealed shut when I buried Barbara. What you want drink? She asked. Beer, I said. Anything cold. She brought me a chang and leaned on the bar. You come Thailand before? First time. Alone? There was something in the way she asked. Not pushy, just curious. Like she actually cared. Yeah, alone. She nodded slowly. Me too. Alone. My family in Izan. Very far. We talked for hours. She told me about her village up north, about rice fields and water buffalo and a life I couldn't imagine. She told me her mother was sick, that she worked at the bar to send money home, that she dreamed of opening a small shop someday. Something simple, maybe selling clothes or flowers. I told her about Barbara. about the cancer that took 18 months to kill her, about how the house felt too big now, too quiet, about why I came to Thailand, to feel something other than empty. I understand, Warana said, and I thought maybe she really did. When the bar closed, she wrote her line ID on a napkin and pressed it into my hand. You message me, we talk more, okay? I messaged her the next morning. Within a week, I'd extended my trip. Within 2 weeks, I'd rented a small condo in Jomtien. Within 3 weeks, she'd moved in. I told myself it was too fast. But when you're 65 and lonely and someone makes you feel alive again, you don't ask questions. You just hold on. The first time Warana asked for money, it seemed reasonable. We were lying in bed, her head on my chest, ceiling fan spinning lazy circles above us. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She picked it up, looked at the screen, and I felt her body tense. What's wrong? I asked. My cousin, she said quietly. She need help. 5,000 baht for mother medicine. 5,000 baht. About $150. Nothing, really. You need to send it. She looked up at me with those wide, dark eyes. I have small money, but not enough. I already sent money last week. I'll give it to you. Her face lit up. She kissed me hard. Thank you, darling. Thank you. I pay you back. You don't have to. No, I pay. I promise. She transferred the money that night, and I felt good about it. I had money sitting in my account doing nothing. Why not help? 2 weeks later, she needed 10,000 baht, her brother's school fees. A week after that, 15,000. The rice harvest had failed, and her family had no food. Each time, she was tearful and grateful. Each time, I told her not to worry about paying me back. What was I going to spend it on anyway? But I started noticing other things. Her phone buzzed constantly. She'd glance at it and turn it face down. Just my cousin, she'd say. Or, my friend from village. I wanted to believe her. One night, at an expat bar in Jomtien, I met Tom, British guy, maybe 70, with sun-damaged skin and tired eyes that had seen too much. He bought me a beer and we talked about football and the heat and nothing important. Then he asked, You got a girl? Yeah, Warana. She's great. Tom took a long drink. How long? 3 months. She asked for money yet? I stiffened. She's not like that. Mate, Tom said, not unkindly. They're all like that. You're not her boyfriend. You're her ATM. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, but I just finished my beer and left. Tom didn't know Warana. He didn't know how she looked at me, how she took care of me. She loved me. She'd said so. That night, lying in bed while Warana was in the bathroom, I heard her phone buzz on her pillow. The screen lit up with a message in Thai. I couldn't read it. I wouldn't have looked even if I could. I trusted her. But then I heard her voice through the bathroom door. She was on the phone, speaking rapid Thai, her voice low and intense. Something in her tone made my stomach twist. She came back to bed, crawled under the sheet, and kissed my forehead. Who was that? I asked, trying to sound casual. My cousin. She worry about May. Your mother? Yes. She not feeling good. Warana curled against me, her breathing evening out. Within minutes, she was asleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, telling myself Tom was wrong. Warana needed help. I could give it. That's what people who love each other do. They help. The doubt lasted maybe 30 seconds before I pushed it away and closed my eyes. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard Warana on the phone again. Her voice came from the bedroom, stressed and sharp. I couldn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. Fear, desperation. She walked out of the bedroom with red eyes. Baby, what happened? She sat on the couch and put her face in her hands. May needs surgery. My stomach dropped. Surgery? Her heart. Doctors say she need operation. Very expensive. How much? She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. 80,000 baht. I did the math in my head. About $2,500. Jesus, Warana. I know. Too much. I don't know what to do. I call my brother, my cousin, everyone. No one have money. She sobbed into her hands, her shoulders shaking. I knelt in front of her and took her hands. Hey, hey, look at me. She met my eyes. Hers were swimming with tears. How fast does she need it? Doctor say 1 week. Maybe less. If she not get surgery, she maybe die. The word hit me in the chest. Die. Her mother. I thought about my own mother, gone 15 years now. I thought about Barbara, about how helpless I felt watching her fade. If I'd had money then, I would have given anything. Everything. I'll transfer it, I said. What? I'll send the money. Tomorrow. Gerald, no. Too much. I cannot. Your mother needs surgery. I have the money. It's done. She threw her arms around my neck and cried into my shoulder. Thank you. Thank you. I pay you back. I promise. I work more, I save. I don't worry about it. You best man in world, Gerald. Best man. I transferred the money the next morning. 80,000 baht. My savings account dropped, but Warana was so grateful, so relieved, that it felt worth it. She called her mother that afternoon, speaking rapidly in Thai, and when she hung up, she was smiling for the first time in days. May, say thank you. She say you like angel. I laughed. I'm no angel. You are to me. For 2 weeks, everything felt normal. Better than normal. Warana cooked for me. She held my hand when we walked on the beach. She didn't ask for anything. I started to think maybe Tom was just a bitter old man. Maybe not every Thai woman was the same. Maybe I'd found one of the good ones. Then Warana's phone rang again. I was reading on the couch when I heard her voice shift in the bedroom. That same stressed tone. That same fear. She came out, her face pale. What now? I asked, already knowing. May have more tests. Surgery, not enough. They find something else. Need more medicine. How much? 30,000 baht. I set my book down. My hands felt cold. Warana, I just sent 80,000. I know. I sorry. I don't want to ask, but May need help. If she not get medicine, the surgery not work. I looked at her standing there in the doorway, wringing her hands. She looked so small, so helpless. You only one I trust, Gerald, she said quietly. Please. I thought about my pension, fixed income, $1,200 a month. I'd already spent more in 3 months than I'd planned to spend in 6. My savings were draining faster than I could refill them. But what was I supposed to do? Let her mother die? Okay, I said. Okay. She rushed over and hugged me. Thank you. Thank you. I transferred the money that afternoon, 30,000 baht, another $900. When I checked my balance that evening, I felt something crack inside me. Not love, not warmth, something colder, something that felt like the beginning of panic. But I pushed it down. I told myself I was helping. I told myself this was temporary. I told myself she loved me. I needed to believe it. 2 weeks later, the doorbell rang. I was watching TV when Warana came out of the bedroom with her phone in her hand. My cousin coming, she said. What? Knock. My cousin. She need stay here few days. Why didn't you ask me? I ask now. She opened the door before I could respond. A young woman stood there with a backpack and a rolling suitcase. She was maybe 22, pretty, with a guarded expression. She said something in Thai to Warana, then glanced at me and gave a small nod. Knock. This Gerald, Warana said. Knock not speak English. Hi, I said. Knock nodded again. That was it. She walked past me and set her stuff down by the couch. She sleep here, Warana said, pointing to the couch. For how long? Few days. Maybe 1 week. 1 week turned into 2. Knock camped on the couch. Her belongings scattered across the living room. She ate my food. She used my Wi-Fi. Glued to her phone from morning to night. She didn't speak to me, didn't look at me, just existed in my space like I was invisible. I felt like a guest in my own home. I tried to talk to Warana about it one evening after Knock had gone out. How much longer is she staying? Why, you ask? Because it's been 2 weeks. You said a few days. She, my family, Gerald. She have nowhere go. But this is my place. You could have asked me first. Waranya's face changed. Her expression went from soft to hard in an instant. You don't understand, Thai family. We help each other. Not like farang. You leave your old people in home to die alone. That's not fair. You want me tell Knock leave? You want her go street? I didn't say that. Then what you say? I didn't know how to answer. I felt cornered, ashamed. I was the foreigner here. I didn't understand the culture. Who was I to complain about her family? I just wish you'd asked, I said quietly. I ask now. She stay. Okay? Okay. She turned and walked back to the bedroom. I sat on the couch where Knock had been sleeping and put my head in my hands. That night, I checked my bank account. I was down to $4,000. Rent was due next week. Another $12,000 baht. I did the math. If things kept going the way they were going, I'd be broke in 2 months. The panic that had been simmering in my chest turned into something sharper, something that kept me awake at night. I lay in bed next to Warana, listening to her breathe, and I wondered how I'd gotten here. The first of the month, I went to pay rent. Mr. Preacha, the landlord, lived in the building and handled everything himself. He was maybe 60, with gray hair and a quiet way of speaking. I handed him the cash. He counted it, nodded, and then looked at me. How you doing, Mr. Gerald? Good, fine. The girl, she treat you good? I tensed. Yeah, why? Preacha folded the money and slipped it into his pocket. Just asking. You happy, that good. She's great. He nodded slowly, like he was choosing his words carefully. You know, she stay here before. I felt my stomach tighten. What? 2 years ago, maybe 3, with another farang, Australian man, older, like you. The floor felt unstable. I don't understand. Same apartment, same girl. He stay 6 months, then he go back Australia, and nothing. Just, you know, same story. I stared at him. What story? Preacha shrugged. She good girl, but many boyfriend. All farang, all give money. I just tell you, be careful. He said it kindly. Not cruel, not judgmental, just honest. She's not like that, I said, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. Okay. Maybe I wrong. I just tell you what I see. I left without another word. My hands were shaking. I walked down the hallway and into the apartment. Warana was on the couch, scrolling her phone. Knock was in the kitchen, eating noodles. We need to talk, I said. Warana looked up. What wrong? Let's go in the bedroom. She followed me. I closed the door. Preacha said you lived here before, with another guy. Her face went pale, then red. He lie. He said you stayed here with an Australian man for 6 months. He lie, she shouted. He jealous. He try rent me this place for more money. I say no. Now he makes story. Why would he make that up? Because people in Thailand like gossip. They see girl with farang. They think she bar girl. They think she bad. They jealous when girl find good man. Her eyes filled with tears. You believe him? You not believe me? I felt my resolve crumble. I just want the truth. I tell you truth. I never stay here. I come here one time, with friend, to see apartment. That all. Preacha, remember me. Now he makes story. She sat on the bed and sobbed. I think you trust me. I think you love me. Now you believe old man over me? I do trust you? No. You think I lie. You think I bad girl. I sat next to her and put my arm around her. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have listened to him. She leaned into me, her body shaking. People always judge me, Gerald. Always. Because I work bar. Because I with older man. They think they know me. But they don't. I know you, I said, even though I wasn't sure I did anymore. You only one who understand? She whispered. I held her until she stopped crying. I apologized again. I told her Preacha was wrong. I told her I believed her, and I wanted to. I really did. But that night, after she fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, and Preacha's words played over and over in my head. Same story, many boyfriends, all farang, all give money, the doubt wouldn't leave. Not this time. The next Saturday, Warana wanted to go shopping, Central Festival Mall. She said she needed new clothes for her cousin's wedding next month. I didn't even know she had a cousin getting married, but I didn't argue. We took a taxi to the mall. She disappeared into a clothing store, and I told her I'd wait outside. "I be quick," she said, smiling. That was 40 minutes ago. I sat on a bench, scrolling my phone, watching families walk by, parents with kids, teenagers laughing, old couples holding hands. I wondered what I looked like to them, an old white guy waiting for his Thai girlfriend. Probably pathetic. I got up to stretch my legs. The food court was nearby, and the smell of pad thai and grilled chicken made my stomach growl. Maybe I'd get something while I waited. I walked toward the food court, scanning the tables. Then I froze. Warana was sitting at a table near the back, with a man, a Thai man, young, maybe 30, with styled hair and a nice shirt. They were laughing. Her hand was on his arm, touching him the same way she touched me. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might collapse. I moved behind a pillar, watching. The man leaned in and said something that made her throw her head back and laugh. Then he kissed her cheek. She didn't pull away. She just smiled and said something back. The world tilted. I turned and walked out of the food court, out of the mall. I stood on the curb outside, trying to breathe, trying to think. My phone buzzed. "Warana, where you go?" I finished shopping. I didn't respond. I got in a taxi and went back to the apartment. 20 minutes later, she came home, shopping bags in her hands, her face bright and cheerful. "Why you leave? I look for you everywhere." I just stared at her. "I buy something for you, darling," she said, pulling a shirt out of one of the bags. "You like?" "Who was he?" Her smile faltered. "Who?" "The man at the food court. The one you were with." Her face went blank. Then she laughed. "Oh, that my friend. From village. He come Bangkok for work. I see him by accident." "You were touching him." "We just friends. He kissed you. On cheek. That normal in Thailand. Friend do that." I wanted to believe her. I wanted it so badly. But I couldn't. "You said you were shopping." "I was. Then I see him. I sit, talk 5 minutes. Then I go back shopping. I watched you for 10 minutes. She threw the shopping bags on the floor. "You follow me? You spy on me?" "I was in the same mall." "You don't trust me. You never trust me." She stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. I stood in the living room, alone, my hands shaking. That night, I lay in bed next to her. She had her back to me. I pretended to sleep. Around midnight, her phone lit up on the nightstand. She picked it up and started typing. I cracked one eye open just enough to see her face in the glow of the screen. She was smiling, really smiling. The kind of smile I hadn't seen her give me in weeks. She typed for a long time. Then she set the phone down, rolled over, and fell asleep. I lay there in the dark, my chest hollow, and I knew. I waited until morning. Warana woke up around 9, groggy, reaching for her phone before she even opened her eyes. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. "We need to talk," I said. She looked at me, and something in her face shifted. She knew. "I saw you," I said, "at the mall. With him." She sat up slowly, pulling the sheet around her. "I tell you already, he, my friend. Don't lie to me, Warana. Please, just don't." She stared at me for a long moment. Then her face changed. The softness was gone. The sweetness, the warmth, it all just disappeared. She looked at me like I was a stranger. "You think I love you?" she said quietly. I felt like I'd been punched. "What?" "You old man, Gerald. You lonely. You sad. You come Thailand because you have no one. I stay with you because I need money. That all." The words hung in the air like smoke. You don't mean that. I mean it. You think I want be with you? You think I love you? She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. I need money for my family. For May. For everyone. You have money. You give. That how it work? Then why didn't you just tell me that from the beginning? Because you want believe you special. All farang want that. They want Thai girl love them. They want feel young, feel handsome. So we pretend that our job. The man at the mall, Somchart. My boyfriend, real boyfriend. 2 years now. The room spun. 2 years. He know about you. He know about all farang. It okay. He understand. I need money. He need money. We survive. I couldn't breathe. So, this whole time, I with him. You just money. Sorry, but true. I felt tears burning my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Why? Why what? Why are you telling me this now? She shrugged. Because you ask. Because I tired pretend. Because maybe I don't need you anymore. She got up, walked to the closet, and pulled out a suitcase. She started packing. I just watched. You want Thai girlfriend, she said as she folded a shirt. You pay. That how it work. You want real love? You stay in America. Find old lady your age. But you come here. You want young, beautiful girl. So you pay. Everyone know that. She zipped the suitcase and looked at me. Thank you for money. I send to my family. They very happy. You help us. I not forget that. Warana, what you want me say? Sorry? Okay. Sorry. But I not lie about what I am. You lie to yourself. She picked up her bags and walked to the door. She stopped and turned back. You good man, Gerald. Really. But you lonely man easy to love and easy to leave. The door closed behind her. I sat at the table for a long time. The apartment was silent. Knock had left the day before. Now, Warana was gone too. I was alone again. Exactly where I started. Except now I was $18,000 poorer. I didn't leave Thailand right away. I couldn't afford to. The condo was paid through the end of the month. I had $4,000 left in my account. I sat on the couch, the same couch where Knock had slept, and I did the math. Every dinner I'd paid for, every bar tab, every emergency, May's surgery, the medicine, the school fees, the rice harvest. I added it up. $18,000. In 4 months, I thought about Tom at the bar. Mate, you're not her boyfriend. You're her ATM. I thought about Preacha. She stay here before. Same story. I thought about the man at the mall. Somchart. Her real boyfriend. The one she actually loved. I wasn't angry at her. Not anymore. I was angry at myself. For being so desperate. So blind. So easy. I'd wanted to believe so badly that someone could love me again. That I could matter to someone. That I wasn't just a 65-year-old widower waiting to die alone. So I believed every word, every tear, every smile. I paid for all of it, and I called it love. That week, I sold the furniture I'd bought. A bed, a couch, a TV. I got almost nothing for it, but I needed the cash. I canceled the lease early and paid the penalty. I booked a one-way ticket back to Auckland. It left in 3 days. I spent my last nights in Thailand sitting on the balcony, watching the city lights, drinking cheap beer. I thought about calling Warana, asking her why, but I knew why. She'd told me I was lonely, and lonely men are easy to love, easy to leave. On my last morning, I walked down to the beach. The same beach where I'd sat with Warana that first night. The same sunset. The same restaurant. I sat at a different table this time. Ordered a beer. Watched the waves. A young couple walked by holding hands. She was Thai. He was Western. Older. Maybe 50. She laughed at something he said. He looked at her like she was the sun. I wanted to warn him. I wanted to walk over and tell him to be careful, to ask questions, to protect himself. But I didn't. Maybe he was different. Maybe she was different. Maybe they'd be fine. Or maybe in 6 months, he'd be sitting where I was sitting, wondering how he'd been so stupid. I finished my beer and left. The airport was crowded. Families, backpackers, business travelers. I checked in, went through security, and found my gate. My flight was in 2 hours. I sat near the window and watched planes take off and land. My phone buzzed. I looked at it. A message from Warana. Sorry, Gerald. I hope you're not angry. You good man. I mean that. Good luck. I stared at the message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I thought about what I wanted to say. I wanted to tell her she broke me, that I'd trusted her, that I'd given her everything, that she didn't just take my money. She took my hope, but I didn't type any of that. What was the point? She wouldn't care. And I didn't need her to. I deleted the message and put my phone away. Around me, people talked and laughed and lived their lives. I felt invisible, an old man alone in a crowd. No one looked at me. No one cared. I thought about the last 4 months. I thought about Barbara. I thought about the empty house waiting for me in Auckland. I thought about what I'd learned. That loneliness makes you vulnerable. That love can be a transaction if you're not careful. That some people see opportunity where you see connection. That you can want something so badly you ignore every warning sign. That at 65, starting over is harder than it should be. I wasn't going home richer. I wasn't going home happier. I wasn't even going home healed. But I was going home awake. They called my flight. I stood, grabbed my bag, and walked to the gate. I handed the attendant my boarding pass. She smiled and said, "Have a good flight." I nodded and walked down the jet bridge, found my seat by the window, buckled in. The plane filled up around me. A family sat across the aisle. The father was maybe 40. The mother held a baby. A little girl, maybe 5, pressed her face against the window, excited to fly. I watched them. The father kissed his wife's head. She smiled at him. Real, easy, the kind of love that doesn't cost anything. The plane started to move. We taxied to the runway. I looked out the window as Thailand slid past. The buildings, the trees, the life I'd tried to build here. Then we lifted off. The city grew smaller. The ocean appeared, blue and endless. I closed my eyes. I didn't cry. I didn't feel relief. I just felt tired and older and smaller than I'd felt in years. But I also felt something else, something I hadn't expected, clarity. I'd come to Thailand looking for love. I'd found a lesson instead, an expensive one, a painful one, but a lesson I'd carry for the rest of my life. The plane climbed higher. The seatbelt sign turned off. People around me pulled out phones, books, headphones. I just sat there, looking out at the clouds. Somewhere below, Warana was probably with Somchart, probably laughing, probably planning the next farang. I hoped he was smarter than me, but I doubted it. Loneliness makes us all stupid. The flight attendant came by with drinks. "Something to drink, sir?" "Water," I said. "Just water." She handed me a plastic cup and moved on. I sipped it slowly. It was warm and tasteless. The man next to me pulled out a laptop and started typing. The baby across the aisle started crying. The little girl asked her mom when they'd get there. Life kept moving. I set the cup down and leaned my head against the window. I thought about what I'd tell people when I got home. My daughter would ask how Thailand was. I'd probably say it was fine, beautiful, hot. I wouldn't tell her about Warana. I wouldn't tell her how much I'd lost. I wouldn't tell her I'd tried to buy love and ended up buying heartbreak instead. I'd just say it was fine. And maybe that was okay. Maybe some stories are meant to stay private. Maybe some lessons are meant to be carried quietly. The plane flew on. The clouds stretched endlessly. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. I didn't dream. I didn't think. I just existed in that strange space between leaving and arriving, between who I was and who I'd become. Hours later, the captain announced our descent into Auckland. I opened my eyes. The city spread below, familiar and cold. My house was down there somewhere, empty, quiet, waiting. I thought about walking through the door, sitting in my chair, turning on the TV, going back to the life I'd tried to escape. It scared me, but it didn't scare me as much as it used to, because now I knew something I hadn't known before. I knew that running doesn't fix loneliness. I knew that money can't buy love. I knew that some people see you coming a mile away, and I knew that at 65, you can still be a fool, but you can also still learn. The plane touched down. We taxied to the gate. People stood, grabbed bags, hurried off. I took my time. I waited until the aisle cleared. Then I stood, pulled my bag from the overhead, and walked off the plane. The airport was gray and cold. Welcome home signs, people hugging, families reuniting. I walked past all of it, through customs, through baggage claim, out into the arrivals hall. I stood there for a moment, looking at the faces. No one was waiting for me. No one knew I was coming. I pulled out my phone and ordered a taxi. It arrived in 10 minutes. I climbed in the back. "Where to?" the driver asked. I gave him my address. He nodded and pulled into traffic. I watched the city pass by. The streets, the buildings, the people living their lives. It looked the same as when I'd left, but I was different. I'd gone to Thailand looking for something. I'd come home having lost almost everything. But somewhere in that loss, I'd found something too. Not closure, not peace, just truth. And maybe that was enough. The taxi pulled up to my house. I paid the driver, grabbed my bag, and walked to the door. I unlocked it, pushed it open. The air inside was stale. The silence was thick. I set my bag down and looked around. Everything was exactly as I'd left it, but it felt different, smaller, more honest. I walked to the kitchen, made a cup of tea, sat at the table, the same table where I'd eaten 1,000 silent dinners. I sipped the tea. It was too hot. I set it down and waited for it to cool. Outside, a car drove past, a dog barked. Life moved on. I thought about Warana one last time. I wondered if she thought about me. Probably not. I was just another farang, another transaction, another story she'd tell her friends. And maybe that's all I'd ever been. But I'd been more to me. I'd been hope. I'd been possibility. I'd been a man trying to feel alive again. And I had felt alive. For a little while. Even if it was a lie. The tea cooled. I picked it up and finished it. Then I stood, washed the cup, and put it away. I didn't know what came next. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I was here, and I was awake, and I was alone. But I'd been alone before, and I'd survive it again. The sun was setting outside. The sky turned orange and pink, the same colors as that first night in Pattaya. But here, in my quiet kitchen, they looked different. Colder, farther away. I turned off the light and walked upstairs. Tomorrow, I'd figure out the rest. But tonight, I was just going to sleep. And maybe that was enough.